Hey, everybody. We'll allow the room to populate here for a minute, like we always do. As always, if you're coming in through the Tour of Idaho group, make sure to give StreamYard your credentials so that if you have a question, it'll pop up. I'm much more likely to answer questions when I see a name. Hello, Ralph Jones. How are you? And yes, I am a bad person. If you're coming in through YouTube or the motorcyclejazz.com Facebook page, just do whatever you can do. Hey, Jeff Jensen, good to see you, buddy. We're not going to be very long tonight. We won't go for the full hour. I'm pretty sure we can get through what we need to get through in about a half an hour. Hey, Sean, how you doing, buddy? And then I'm going to go back to practicing music with my beautiful wife. We, by the way, are having a Christmas concert. We're going to have it online, and I'll post up the information on social media for anybody that's interested. It'll be her first public performance outside of recitals. She's done a lot of recitals, but has never played in front of a live audience of people that she doesn't know before. So this will be kind of an interesting experiment for her, but I think she'll do just fine. Scott Murray, how you doing, buddy? Well, all right, let's get rolling. So as I put up on the Facebook page, when I put up this PBR Monday, this one's an important one. And if you can't be here with us live tonight, make sure you watch this, because I'm going to say some things tonight. It's the last time I hope I have to say them. I'm going to tell you what you need to know to do a 2023 tour, if that's what you want to do. Now, the first thing is I've had a bunch of tour vets come up to me, and it's been more than one. Has said, man, should I do it again this last year since it's going to be the last year? And my advice to you is if you already have a jersey number, no. You can do it anytime you want, any way that you want. And I would say, now you're welcome to come back next year, because I know a lot of people wanted to do it. But the only reason for doing it again next year, if you're already a finisher, is if you want to bring along somebody that hasn't done it before. You want to shepherd somebody new through the tour. But if I were just doing it again, to put another notch on my belt, I don't think this last year's the year you want to do that. I think you'd be better off just to sit back and watch. The route will not disappear after this year. I'm going to keep Mojazz up. I'll keep the Facebook group going. It's just there won't be any more jersey numbers after this year. No more PLB tracking. So there won't be any more T1, so to speak. Everybody will be doing a T2. And anybody that wants to, chime in on the forum, or I'll keep the forum going. Anybody that wants to chime in on a Facebook group, that'll be great. It just won't be me, because my involvement in this is going to cease after this year. There will be a legacy route. I'll tweak it every once in a while. But there will no longer be a T1 after this year. That's where we track you and we award a jersey number. Everything after 2023 will be a T2. Now, this is what I want to address first. This year, the absolute cutoff for teams is going to be June 1st. That's the way we've always done it. But because there's a lot of people that are interested in doing it this year, because this is the last year, I'm going to do two things, and I talked about these at the end of the last season. First is I'm going to open it up to more teams. We're going to open it up starting June 15th, and the last day to go, I think, might be September 4th or 5th. I'll have to look in through there and see when closures are going to start making it difficult, but it'll be somewhere in the first week of September. That's like 45 or 50 days. So I'm going to allow as many teams as we have days during the tour season, but the absolute rule this year is one team per day. So it's only one team per day can set out from Moab. And what I'm going to do is several of you, last season PM'd me or sent me an email, or a lot of you talked to me in person because you're friends of mine, came by and said, hey, I want to do it next year. And I said, you're in. So as soon as I said last year was going to be, or this next year, 2023, was going to be the last season, a number of people that I know personally contacted me in some way and said, well, I'd like to get on the list for next year. And I said, no problem, you're in. Several of you are watching tonight. I told Sean Casey that was true. I told Damon that was true. So if you're a person who communicated to me that you're interested in coming next year, you're at the head of the line. You get to look at the days that you want, the dates first. So I'm going to open enrollment starting right now and running until the first of the year. So for the next 5 weeks, from now until the new year, the 1st of January, all of you out there, and there were several of you, there were at least a dozen people that I said, you're good to go. It's perfectly okay for you to come back or to give it your first shot. You have until January 1st, and you get, hello, Spencer, and you're first in the line. So you pick out your date, and it's first come, first serve. I'll start the 2023 thread on the forum tomorrow. So you have to be a registered user on the forum. I'll start that tomorrow, and, first come, first serve. So after the first person picks their dates, that start date is no longer eligible for anybody else. By the way, next year it's the same number of days as it was last year. I'll go through a little bit how we've changed it just a little bit. I'm not going to release the entire route until around the 1st of May sometime. And there will be mystery sections just like there were last year that you won't get to until you get there. And I have changed the route this year fairly significantly. It's not going to be the way it was last year. There have been some changes. So from now to the 1st of the year, if I talked to you and you said, I want to do it, and I said, you're good to go, you sent me a PM, you sent me an email, we talked in person, you're at the head of the line, and no one else can register until the 1st of the year except you all that I talked to personally. And if I told you you're in, you don't need a recommendation for anybody. And look at this. Look at that. Let's see what we can do here. All right. They're gone. So you don't need to do anything except pick out your dates, and I'm even going to let you pick your team name. If I talk to you and you're good to go, you can pick your own team name, put it in there in a forum, and you can get going. Now, that you can still register after the 1st of the year if you want to, but you're at the head of the line because all the people that I said you're good to go are people that I know pretty well. I know that their preparation stuff will be just fine, and I know they have a really good chance of being able to complete the tour, which means it's not a waste of everybody's time to deal with them. So you're good to go. Now, the second tranche is going to be from the 1st of the year until the 1st of March. So you've got the first 3 months of the year if you're in the second tranche to go ahead and get registered for the tour. Now, in the second tranche, I'm going to limit this to people that I personally know somehow. If I know you or if I know any member of your team, you're in this second tranche. So this would be a lot of you that have been here before or people that I've interacted with in some way over the years. If I know you personally or I know anybody on your team, you're second in line. And you are able to register from the 1st of January until the 1st of March. I'll hold those 3 months open for you. And again, it's first come, first serve. You know, you get in there, you pick your dates. And by the way, this year, it's going to be hard for you to convince me to swap dates. So you should be fairly sure of your date before you pick it, because I think this is going to fill up and it's just not going to be possible to move to another date. If another team is sitting on that day, I'm not going to move them out to accommodate you. So be sure of your dates when you pick them. They're probably going to be sacrosanct this year. Now, in the second tranche of people, since I kind of know you, I'm going to, if I say okay, once I see you in there, the only thing that I'm going to need from you is a letter of intent. So I need something from you, and I'm going to give you an email address to send things to. In fact, my email address that I want you to send things to, just to make it easy, is my Gmail address. It's martin.hackworth, my name, martin.hackworth@gmail.com. Don't send it to the Motorcycle Jazz address. Send it there. So if you're in the second tranche, all I need from you is a letter of intent. And this means, I want you to convince me that you've read enough about this thing, that you know what you're getting into, which should be easy for you if I know who you are. Now, not everybody I know I'm going to welcome back with open arms. So, part of that is that I know you and we're on fairly good terms. You know, if you're somebody that came through here, if you're the guy that left 20 boxes of shit in a hotel room up at North Fork, you're not coming back. But those kind of things are rare. For the most part, if I know you and we're on pretty good terms, it's going to be fairly automatic. But I do want a letter of intent. I want you to convince me that you know what you're getting into. Because I know people that have never been here before that have said they're coming this year. I know them. I haven't already okayed them. They fit into this. So I need for you to convince me that you know what you're getting into. So we don't take a day away from somebody else and give to you that could have gone to somebody that has a greater chance of success. So that's the second tranche. The third tranche, you get to register from March 1st to May 1st. This third tranche are people I don't know. And there's a ton of people out there I don't know that I've heard are interested in coming to do the Tour of Idaho this year. Now, as I've made no bones, this is the last year, and I want this last year to be smoother than any previous years. For the most part, the teams that come through are wonderful. My life has been made entirely better by people I've met through the Tour of Idaho, but every year there's at least one or two teams composed of people who turn out to be complete dickheads. And this year, I'm going to do everything I can to stop that before those people get here. So if I don't know you, you're going to have to convince me that you belong here. And here's how you're going to do that. First, you're going to do this letter of intent. So you're going to write a letter to me and signed by everybody that's on your team. And this letter needs to convince me that you understand what you are getting into. I need to know a little bit about your bikes, your background. You need to put enough in the letter that convinces me that you have read the motorcyclejazz.com website about the Tour of Idaho T1 and you understand what the deal is. And you understand that the chances of success are actually fairly slim. We had really, really good teams in the last few years show up here, and they didn't all make it. There were some teams last year that were fantastic, pro-level talent, and they went out and they had a hoot. But even those teams had some issues. You know, there were some navigation issues that they had. There were some weather-related issues, fires, things like that. There's all kinds of things that can happen that don't speak to your ability personally. It's just there's an element of luck in all this. But what you cannot do is come unwound when things don't go your way. When you do something like just decide you're going to skip a half a day of riding and ride the route that you want to get to point A to point B because you couldn't figure out the nav, you shouldn't be mad at me. That's on you. That's not me. And I'm just tired of having to deal with people like that. It's ridiculous. I'm still dealing with a team from last year who's unhappy. They screwed themselves, but they don't see it that way. So, that's the third tranche. So you'll have between March 1st and May 1st to get in your application. Again, you can email me first this letter of intent and all that kind of stuff. I'm also going to need a reference. I'm going to need somebody that knows you pretty well that's willing to stand up for you and say, these people are good aces. I don't care whether you're male, female. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what you identify as. You need to find somebody that's willing to talk to me and say, these people are okay. They won't give you any trouble. I think you'll enjoy meeting them, and that's all it's going to take. So if I don't know you, you're going to need a letter of recommendation or somebody to get a hold of me and say these people are okay. And that's it. And I reserve the right to say no to any team that I want next year. If I sense that there's something about you that's going to cause trouble down the road, my track record of this is pretty good. The team that came unglued last year, I knew that was going to be a problem months in advance, and I just should have put a stop to it earlier. I did not. That's my fault. This year, that's not going to happen. This last year is going to be smooth. Now, a lot of you out there, this is like when I was teaching physics in college, the first day of class was a come to Jesus talk. And my students their eyes were this big. They were going, oh, God, what did we just get ourselves into? Most of you are not going to have a problem. Whether you make it or not, you're going to show up here and you're going to have a blast. It's going to be a ton of fun. You're going to create memories for your entire life, which is overwhelmingly what you hear from these teams that have completed the tour on PBR Monday. As I have pulled more people into sort of what goes on behind the curtain in the past few years, these people are appalled when I show them the communication I have with some people. The problem is, most people in this world are pretty good souls, and they have different abilities, and there's different things that they're interested in, but most people are pretty nice people, and they don't cause you any trouble. But one thing I found out in teaching in college, and I found it out also in doing the tour of Idaho, is that if just 10% of the people that you deal with are a pain in the ass, those 10% will quickly occupy 90% of your time. Nobody gets paid anything for doing this. It's a huge amount of effort to do this, and I'm just not putting up with it this last year. I absolutely do not give a shit about anything except getting as many people through as we can that have a good time. If you're coming here and you're not to have a good time, you're out to break every record, you're out to convince everybody that you're the baddest person, baddest motorcycle rider on the planet, get in line. But go do something else. Leave us out of this. We want to have fun time. This is a big adventure. The people you're going to meet along the way are fantastic. It's an awesome time. And after this year, I am done with this stuff. I'm going to be a ghost when it comes to motorcycle world. I got some other things that I want to get done, and that's what I'm going to do. So I want to make my exit as pleasant as possible. Now, let me see. What else have I got here in my notes? Okay, first come, first serve, one team per day. Again, I'll get the calendar started tomorrow, and you all that I've already talked to have exclusively till the first of the year to get your name in it. I'm going to release the route somewhere around May 1st. I don't know exactly when, but it'll be somewhere around May 1st. And there will be quite a bit of mystery section on the route this year. There will be some entire mystery days once again. I can tell you it's the same number of days as it was last year. And I can tell you day one's even longer than it was last year. We're going to make day one this year Hell Day because I want to make sure that if you get through day one, you're not going to have any trouble anywhere else along the tour unless you just have some bad luck. So day one's going to be even a little longer, not a lot longer, but a little longer than it was even last year. There's going to be no half day off in Pocatello, maybe a morning off in Pocatello because day two will be relatively short. But that's only because there's some high speed stuff in it. It's still 200 miles. Day two is going to be 200 miles. There's some mystery section in it. But you should get where you're going fairly early. Day three will be almost entirely a mystery day. Day four will be almost entirely a mystery day. And then some of the route up around Chalice and stuff, we can't change very much because there's only so many ways we can get you through those areas that are legal. But there's going to be some more mystery day up until Salmon. Then after Salmon, we're probably going to do the route pretty much the same way we did last year. So that's what I can tell you right now. Same number of days, but probably no longer a day off in Pocatello. You might be able to spend a few hours in the morning getting some things rearranged a little bit. Probably you're going to be waking up about 10 o'clock in the morning because if you start at 1 or 2 in the morning your first day, I'm going to suggest that might be what a lot of you have to do to get to Pocatello by midnight because I'm going to put approximately 30 more miles of single track in day one. I figured out how to do it. What else? Let's see. Oh, this year, when we're going to have you register, I'll put up in the forum when I create the thread tomorrow or sometime fairly soon, probably tomorrow morning. I'll put up, as I've done every year, this is the format for how I want you to put things in there. So, everybody's name, the motorcycle you're riding, and where you're from. And then your PLB link. Now, I know that a lot of people don't like to activate their PLB plan until the Tour of Idaho. A lot of people, I ride with PLB all the time. I even take it with me when I'm out on my bicycle, which is mostly what I ride these days. And but that's okay. But this year, you have to have your PLB activated by July 1st. July 1st is the last day that I'm going to check for PLB links in the forum. I'm going to make the calendar active. I'm going to start working on a calendar through June. And the very last day that I'm going to fiddle with the calendar is going to be July 1st. It would be helpful if you had them done by June. But I will allow you to keep a placeholder in there until July 1st. Now, When I say placeholder, the really good thing would be if your placeholder were what you were going to use when you actually activated your PLB. That would save me from having to go back to do it. So just choose a placeholder that you don't think anybody else has got, your name and a string of numbers or something, or your name and a couple of other words. Just be creative about it, and that way when you actually go to activate your PLB link, it's going to be incredibly unlikely that anybody else will have chosen that. But if it's not what it should be by July 1st, I'm not going to track you. We're not going to put you on the calendar. So you need to get that done this year. Last year, and this happened with people I really like. This has got nothing to do with whether I think you're a good person or not, because I know people drop the ball. But it makes it way hard on me if I have to, when I'm trying to gear up to get everybody through, dealing with all these people that show up every year, if I'm having to fuss at you about where is your PLB ID. It's just another thing that I don't need. And I have a kind of a system for making sure that everything runs smoothly, that you get the tour number, that you get the routes that you're supposed to get when you get them. And when I'm missing a piece of information, it throws a huge wrench in all that. And it causes me, heaven forbid, to not get somebody. Like there are teams that are out on the route. What if while I am dealing with you trying to get your PLB link correct, I miss my deadline for sending somebody the directions they need for where they need to go? Things like that happened last year. There's a lot of balls in the air. And if there's some information that I'm missing from you, it distracts me from what I need to be doing for other teams. And last year, there were teams that didn't have their PLB links working the night before they left. So the time that I'm spending saying, hey, I need this information, no, it still doesn't work. No, it still doesn't work. No, it still doesn't work. No, probably try doing this. The time I spend doing that is time I'm not spending making sure that a team farther along the route got all the mystery data that they needed to get. I try to automate that stuff as much as possible, but stuff's not perfect, and you have to spend a lot of time making sure that everybody gets that. So PLB links, I wish you would have them before July 1st, but after July 1st, I'm not tracking you, so you won't be eligible for a T1. Let's see. There will be a half day off in salmon. We're going to preserve that this year. And again, as I said before, it's the same number of days that it was before. So there you go. That's what you need to know. So let's reiterate. Let's go through it one more time. If I've already told you it's okay for you to come this year, yeah, from now until the first of the year, that's exclusively you. Only people that I've already said you're in. You can pick a date. You can put it in the forum, in the thread that I'll start tomorrow morning. It's exclusively you from now till the first of the year. So you're at the head of the line, first come, first serve. After that, it's people that I know. And, if I know you and we're on fairly good terms, you have no reason to think that I'm likely to say no, then go ahead. You're in that second tranche, so you're there from the first of the year till March 1st. And the only thing I need from you is a letter of intent from everybody on your team telling me that you understand what you're getting into, okay? And then the third tranche are people I don't know. I need that letter of intent for you, and I need for somebody to give you a reference. Somebody that it's best if it comes from the tour community or if it's somebody that I know. Not all those teams are going to get in. You're going to have to do some work to convince me that that you have a reasonable chance of succeeding, okay? This route this year is a lot like the route last year. We had a lot of good teams show up. A lot of people made it last year. I was actually very impressed by the number of people that got through last year, including some soloists that just did a freaking fantastic job. We had some soloists last year just kick butt. We had a team of pros that came through at the end of the season, and watch it. Those guys just made it look easy. I don't even think they breathed hard when they were doing all the stuff that the rest of us thought was a nightmare. Some new trail this year. Some trails that we're putting together in different ways, so there have been some changes. And the last thing is that for the second year, you will be required, every team will be required to have a chainsaw. So it's the same as I don't know who that is that just asked that question, but it's the same as last year. I don't know another way to say that. The intervals are the same as they were last year. we'll get into this a little bit more when we start doing these in the spring, but you're required to stick to our intervals and stay where we stay. So one of the problems that crops up is that there's this Braun Brothers reunion that happens in Chalice, somewhere in between the first and second week of August. You need to make sure that you're not in Chalice, the 4 or 5 days that event is going on. We had a hole in the schedule last year. The reason was that nobody can find accommodations there. Now, you are perfectly welcome to bivouac along the trail if that's what you want to do. In fact, there have been some teams that have been trying to convince me to have a mandatory bivouac. I don't want to do that because a lot of teams end up bivouacking anyway. Teams end up riding in the rain and getting in at 4 in the morning. We had that happen a bunch of times last year. So I'm not going to force anybody to sleep on the ground. It happens often enough just by accident. If you want to try to go through Chalice when the Braun Brothers are doing their deal, you're welcome just to ride a few miles out of town after you eat dinner and lay down beside the trail and bivouac somewhere. We recommend that people carry bivouac gear just in case you have to do that. And that'd be just fine. The one thing I'm not going to allow is for you to stay anywhere other than where we say. So, if that day ends in Chalice, you got to stay in Chalice somewhere, or you got to bivouac on the outskirts of town somewhere. As always, if you don't make your interval, if you have a mechanical or something goes wrong and you don't make it where you're supposed to go that day, that's always fine. You just got to make up the time. You got to stay on schedule. So if you have a breakdown going into salmon, it's okay if you bivouac in the woods, but you got to get to salmon the next day, then you got to get back on schedule. So there's nothing wrong with that. But you must observe our intervals. And every year there's somebody that says, hey, I think that I want to take my day off here. No bueno. The intervals that we have are the intervals that you're going to observe. All right. I don't see much in the line of questions here. I see a bunch of comments. If you have a question that's not addressed somewhere in the website, you can fire it at me right now, but I'm going to get going in a few minutes here. I will create that thread. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I will create the thread first thing tomorrow morning. So you can start looking at the forum tomorrow. If you're not registered for the forum, make sure you register. I'll go check tomorrow before I create the thread to see if there's anybody new that I need to admit. Let's see. Mike, I almost had an unintentional bivouac last year. I know, man. I've had many. I've slept under my bike, starting the engine occasionally to keep me warm more than once. What else? That's all I can think of right now. Probably won't do another PBR Monday till after the first of the year. I've got a pretty full holiday schedule this year. And Monday night ends up being, my wife's work schedule's changed, and so Monday night ends up being a night that's a little bit tough. So we'll start these again in the spring after people have started registering, and I'll do it the same way I always have for about 8-10 weeks or something like that. I'll go through every day of the tour and talk about what you need to know. And we'll do as much as we can to get you prepared. Dude, we almost did. Hell, if we just waited 20 more minutes, the sun might have just come up on us. That happened to a lot of people last year. I went up and rode all that stuff that gave a lot of people some difficulty again last year. In fact, I did it a couple times. I hurt my back the second time I did it. I was all fired up to go out and ride a bunch in the fall after the tour season was over. Second time I went out, I was riding that nasty stuff that really slowed everybody down. And I decided to ride it in and then ride it back out. And when I rode it back out, I was going to ride up the other alternative trail that a couple of people took by accident. And I was coming back down through there, and I absolutely wrenched my back in the boulder field. And all of you know what I'm talking about. I was coming down through there, and I hit a rock, and my suspension, rear suspension, was fully compressed, got a big hit, and it shot that seat up into my back just like a jackhammer. And I still can't ride my dirt bike. I get on it and do a few laps around my track every once in a while. It feels like an alligator's biting my back every time I do that. I might have chipped a vertebra or something, or at the very least I pinched a nerve. I could ride my bicycle just fine. But every time I get on my motorcycle, the first time that seat pops up and hits my fanny anywhere along the ride, it's instant, and and nearly unbearable pain. So hopefully over the winter, whatever it is, will heal up and I'll be able to ride some next summer. But I did 2 rides this fall, and that was the end of it. And it was up there in that gnarly section that everybody that rode it last year knows what I'm talking about. You guys that rode that in the rain, man, I'm telling you what, my hat's off to you, because I rode it. I mean, there's always a stream running down it, so in a way it's wet anyway, but when even the trees and stuff are wet, and even the rocks that aren't in the stream bed are wet, that's just got to make it worse. Beautiful section. When you get to the top, everything's cool. This year, that section will still be there, but we're gonna approach it in a slightly different manner, and I think everybody will enjoy it. All right, Jake, it's good to see you. I'm glad that you guys are coming back. Spencer, good to see you here, buddy. Spencer was on the team last year that blew everybody's doors off at the end of the year. They were so much fun to watch. One thing that I have always enjoyed my entire life, I don't represent it, but I enjoy it when I see it, is when I see competence. And those guys were some of the most competent riders I have ever seen do this thing. They just got out there and they put the boots to it. And it's awesome to watch people that are just so in command of what they're doing, that have that level of ability. And speaking of that, here's another guy, Brian Millis from way up north. Another guy, tour vet, came here a few years ago and just absolutely put the boots to it. Brian is an overall outdoorsman. He does a lot of stuff, skis a bunch, does some ski mountaineering and things like that. So he has an interesting background. Another one of these Sean Smith kind of guys that does a lot of stuff. All right, so any more questions before I head back upstairs? If not, I will be talking to all of you after the first of the year sometime. I will go fire up the forum thing tomorrow. I'll post information occasionally in the Tour of Idaho Facebook page. Jim, I'm looking forward to seeing you too. Jim, you're coming with your dad again, aren't you? Your dad and your brother? Isn't that right? And I think we've got several teams from way up north, all of whom I've already said they're good to go. So I think we're going to have another team Spooner. We've got another team of some guys that have really helped me out. And then JR's coming back this year. JR, the guy who hit the deer last year. As I said earlier, you will get the route in whole on around May 1st. Before that, I'll start leaking little bits of it out day by day, but I'll release the whole route on May 1st. And, all right. Most of you, I don't know who you are. I can't see names or anything. So I'm going to sign off right now. Before I do, happiest holidays to all of you. I'm getting ready to have a blast this year. My family and I've got a full spate of holiday activities planned. I think we're going to load up the RV and travel around a little bit before the holidays. And then my wife and kids are all going to go to her mom's house for about a week, which ought to be fun. And we got a lot of good stuff going on. Let's see. I want to see if I can beat that shit out of myself one more time. Give me a reference to how my players feel after 12 games. Oh, man, I'm telling you what. Hey, Jim, I'll bet it's interesting driving through Moscow on your way to work every day and see how the population of Moscow is probably quadrupled with media folks running around. It's a shame what happened up there. Ralph Jones, thank you very much. Ralph has been with me in this thing almost from the beginning. He's a guy that I talk to frequently about, kind of how to run things. He's a real good dude. One of the last years I did the tour, I was actually a few hours behind Ralph and his partner when they did it. And Ralph showed up a few times before he finally made it. And it was a lot of fun watching those guys go out and put the boots to it. All right, everybody, happy holidays. Once again, the Come to Jesus meetings just to make sure we're all on the same page. It should be a blast this year. We're going to have a good time, unless you're an asshole, in which case you should stay home. All right, thanks a lot, everybody, and I'll be seeing you.